How do you get confident? And is the person who is the loudest in the room the most confident? Maybe they're not, right? What about the fact that some people seem to be just born with confidence and some people don't have it? Is it something you can learn? Like step by step, actually learn it. You can. And that's what Tyler and I are going to talk about today. This is your free online coach. We're here for you. We're here to answer your questions. So you can leave them in the comments or you can go to our website, bbgtv.org, and leave an anonymous question and we will get to them all if we can. Thanks for being here. Are you a confident person?
Somewhat. I think that's an honest answer. I dropped out of school and, by the time I realized I wasn't just going to be a millionaire in 6 months, it was like, well.
We have in Bounce Back Generation, we have the 6 building blocks, protection, relationships, coping skills, confidence, belonging, and storytelling. So confidence is a really important foundation that we all need. Okay, I have a little game that we're going to play for everybody watching, listening. So this is for you. I'm going to give you some scenarios, and then I want you to pick out which person is the most confident in this scenario. Okay? All right. So the first one is a public speaking class. So Jordan walks into class and his voice is shaky and he's like, I'm really scared to speak. I don't really want to do this. And he's nervous. But of course he gets up and he does his assignment. Keisha says, I've been practicing this all week. I feel pretty good about it. I've got this speech and I'm gonna give it a shot. And then Max comes up and he's just like, I don't need to prepare. I'm a natural at public speaking. Who do you think has the most confidence in that scenario? Don't say why, just like pick a name. So it's Jordan, Keisha, or Max.
It's not a trick question, is it?
No. Just like who would you, if you saw them in your public speaking class, who would you say is like the person you think has the most confidence and when you want to be like, really, like in that class? Like, wow, I wish I was more like them.
Probably Max.
Okay. Scenario number 2, you're going rock climbing. Ray says, I have never rock climbed before. I'm really freaked out. I don't know if I want to do this. But I guess I'll learn because he's with a bunch of friends. He's like, don't mind me if I scream, right? Zoe says, I've practiced on smaller walls. I know some techniques. I'm gonna give it a shot. And then Eli jumps up on the wall, gets ready to go. The instructor is still like giving instructions and Eli's already starting to climb up. So I've done crazier stuff before. I'm going for it. Who do you think is the most confident in that situation?
Eli.
Okay. I'm going to do one more. Science fair project. Sam says, I've never built a model like this, but I'm curious and I want to figure out how to do it with you. So I guess he has a partner that he's working with. So Imani says, I've studied this design last year and I built 2 models already. I can lead if needed. And then Nico says, I know exactly how to win this. Just follow my lead. I don't need to hear your ideas. Who do you think is the most confident? Who would you want to work with? Because who would instill confidence in you?
Probably Imani.
Okay. All right. So here's the interesting answer for all of those. The first person is the one who's afraid, but is willing to do it. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate is that confidence is a spectrum that we're all on. So the first part of building confidence is courage. It's being like, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And we're going to talk in a minute about why would you do that? Like, why would you care? And then the second is the person who is actually the most confident. And that's someone who's tried it and practiced a little bit and says, I think I got this. And then the third person is the person who is overconfident. So Max says, I don't need to prepare. So Max in the public speaking class, I don't need to prepare. I can do this. In the rock climbing, Eli jumps up before the instructor even says, this is how you do this, and says, I got this. And then Nico in the science fair projects, like, let me get out of my way. I know what to do. We often interpret that overconfidence as confidence when actually it is fake. And it covers up not knowing. Oftentimes it's narcissistic. It's like, everybody look at me. I think one of the first things that I want to start off with is, how do you define confidence? So I see it on this kind of spectrum, and this kind of gets borne out with some of the studies that have gone out there. But what are your thoughts on it? Like,
Well, I guess courage, bravery would kind of be the beginning. I would say that's probably everyone can have bravery and everyone can have courage. You might not have confidence yet because confidence, I think, in some area does come from your actual ability to do something. But you don't need the ability to do something, if that makes sense. You just need to be willing. It kind of in the middle, or if we were kind of like to follow that trajectory, the people who are preparing. Well, I'm thinking of myself in class. Like if I'm going to a public speaking class and all I have to do is stand up there for 10 minutes and say something, I feel, and maybe this is some arrogance, but okay, and maybe that's the next step. Is like you're actually confident, and you're still preparing. You're doing everything you need to do. You have a little bit of experience. You can do the thing, and then past that is maybe you drop the level of preparedness that you maybe should have going into something, and that's kind of you think you can do it, and you might be able to, but you don't prepare anyways. And so the arrogant person doesn't prepare. Or doesn't think of what could happen or what could happen out of their current scope of experience, whereas the confident person has the ability, but also prepares for other things that might be able to happen as well.
right.
And I would say that gives you even more confidence because now you're not just going in there blind. You actually have an awareness that something could blindside you.
So we're going to talk a little bit later about like your nervous system kicking in, like you do a public speaking thing and you're nervous and you're like, your voice is shaking and you're sweaty and your brain gets scrambled and what happens in that. And then, but like in public speaking, you can be prepared and know that that's going to happen. I don't think I've ever met anyone who I've had this conversation with who does public speaking, who does not say, I get nervous every time. And what they do is they learn how to use that nervousness to prepare. So I make notes and I practice it and I, do an outline or whatever it is. I was listening to somebody who, Mel Robbins, I think it is, she's on YouTube, and she has one of the most popular TED Talks on the internet. It's got like 40 million views or something crazy like that. And she said it's like TED Talks are like 15 minutes. And she said the whole 15 minutes that I was up there, I was having a massive panic attack. I picked out some examples of celebrities that show that kind of spectrum of confidence. And there is a really great story about Beyonce that every time she goes on stage, she gets really nervous. So she has a whole ritual of things that she does. She has to listen to a certain playlist. She does like a circle with her team and they do a prayer. She, has like a mantra she says to herself before she goes on stage. So there's somebody who looks like they're really confident on stage, but they have to do the courage part first, still. Right. And I think that's the point that we miss, that we all have to be, courageous in order to build our confidence. Have you ever had like a client that you helped build their confidence, or do you have like something that you had to learn how to build your confidence up in, like being a dad? That's a big one.
My wife, she would call it arrogance. And, like thinking of being a dad, like I didn't prepare at all. Well, I prepared in my own way, but not for actual kids. I thought, okay, well, make sure there's money, make sure there's this, make sure we have this relationship. But as far as the kids go, I didn't do any sort of preparing. My wife kind of always brings that up as kind of like a joke. And I do a lot of things in my life like that, where I don't prepare all that much, or I don't think about it all that much. And I try to rely on my ability to fail really quickly and learn really quickly. And also be comfortable with embarrassment and being comfortable with, okay, well, if you're not going to prepare, if you're going to go into this unprepared, and that you're going to go in unprepared, be comfortable when you say something wrong, be comfortable when you do something wrong, and be able to kind of just pick up the next step. Because the worst thing you can do, especially if you're public speaking, is you start to get nervous, or you say something wrong and then you forget where you were, and then you stop speaking, and then you're still in front of all these people and you still have to say something, but you've completely taken yourself out of the moment. And that's been something I've really had to kind of buffer against, especially being a dad, because you mess up. And instead of freezing or getting angry or stopping or giving up, you have to look at yourself and say, like, well, I did that wrong. I didn't get it right. This is really embarrassing. Or, it's not just me on the line here, but it's my kids. But at the same time, not let that stop you and almost like the next second or next minute, pick yourself up and keep going, at least until you can get to the spot where you can rest. You know, the speech is over, the thing is done, and you can kind of maybe reflect. And I think the more so I'm almost kind of describing an alternative way to prepare is like you prepare by doing the thing, messing up, getting to a place where you can reflect on it. And then that's kind of your preparation for the next go around.
Yeah. But you see, you have to start with the courage first. You have to have the courage or the blindness to go into like having kids. Let's maybe, so the way that I see it is like, it's like a layer cake, right? At the bottom is that courage, but, and then you do what you're talking about where you practice and then you build some confidence. And then the more you do it, the more confident you are. And then hopefully you don't get to the point where you're overconfident because it's like, oh, I've done this a million times. It's like driving, you know, it's like at first you're scared to drive and then you get good at it and you get confident and then you can get overconfident and that's where you can get into an accident. Let's go back to that first layer. How do you get motivated to do something when it really scares you? Like let's say, like the first time you ever asked your wife out, for example. I mean, were you scared or was it, I mean, or is that not sometimes it's not scary.
I think her best friend and my best friend at the time were dating in high school. And so that's kind of how we knew each other. And so her best friend just kind of told me like, hey, like she thinks you're cute or whatever. And so I think one day I just asked, we had a beach maybe a half a mile from the school. Not like a huge beach, but just kind of like, had some water and some sand. And so I just asked her if she wanted to go walk to the beach after school. And that was kind of the first time I asked her out. I wasn't so nervous because, well, I already knew she thought I was cute. Right. And so, and that's kind of, that's maybe, there's something a bit more to that because there's been a lot of things in my life where like, I'm not going to ask a girl out if I'm not getting any signals that she's interested in me. Like it might not be, it doesn't have to go as far as she thinks I'm cute or like her friend tells me. But, you know, if she's not like looking at me or making eye contact, or if I speak to her, she's not really engaged in the conversation. If I'm not getting these little cues, I'm probably not, it's going to tell me that it's probably not worth it, but there's no need for me to build myself up for something that I'm not getting any signals for. Let me have a reasonable expectations for where I should be at and what I should be doing. It does have to be realistic. You have to be able to see it in your mind and it has to be real. And sometimes that's a really small thing, and sometimes that's a big thing. But you said something in the last podcast about we all kind of need that dopamine to kind of get going. And so for me, it's like my cups of coffee during the day. It's like that little break, and that lets me know that I can get through the day. And maybe that's not the best system, but if I think a lot of us psych ourselves out trying to take too big of steps or trying to do too much when we need to start with something much smaller. And you asked, you know, if I've ever coached anybody with confidence. And I would say most of the people I end up coaching do have, they want more confidence, but they've stopped themselves from doing the things that will gain them confidence because they've built too big of a gap between where they are and what their expectations are.
Right. And
so you can just get like a little taste of something. And then you can build momentum from there, but you can't go from 0 to 100.
I think for me, and this is, you know, maybe just after going through a lot of scenarios in my life where I've had to build courage and build my confidence in certain things, I find that it really has to be connected to something that I really, really want. Like I'm not going to be courageous about, you know, like bungee jumping off of a bridge. I don't need to do that. I don't find any, but there are people who do it because it's connected to a real value. Like I'm an adventurous person. So I think you have to go back, and we talked about this, I think in the first episode, about knowing what your true values are. So I think I don't know if we want to do it out loud, but I had a little kind of way to figure out if you're, where did I put it? Cut this part out but I had a little way to kind of test out whether something is worth doing for you. You know, like you're presented with, you know, am I going to bungee jump off this bridge? And you can go through your values and say, does this make sense for me? So just to reiterate, for me personally, in order to have courage to do something, I have to really connect it to is this actually really important to me? And so I would say for everybody, if you want to build up your courage, link it to something that you really want. So write down or think of 5 things that you think you value. So it could be things like, do you want to do this? Do you want to practice this?
Okay.
Okay. So write down 5 things that you think you value. So I'm just going to start throwing out values, right? Just like, because I put a list in the first episode of a bunch of values. Things like success, honesty, love, beauty, being admired, my reputation, freedom, creativity. So these are all values, and you pick the ones, and you don't have to pick any of the ones that I just said. I'm just kind of giving you examples. And then once you have the 5 things written down.
Okay. I think
Okay, now for each one of these values, ask yourself, if no one was watching me, would I still value these things or this thing? So go down your list. So if nobody saw you doing something that was connected to that value, would you still do it?
Yes.
So if you can say yes, then those are what's called intrinsic values. They are true values to you. If no, then you want to consider if they're ego driven or that you're doing them for approval. Like, well, let's ask yourself another question. Was I taught this value by somebody else? And if so, do I still believe it's right for me? If your dad told you like education is a value, like, being really highly educated. Okay, my dad taught me that. Do I still think it's right for me? So for me, yeah. For me personally, I do. But it's important to kind of ask yourself and reflect on that.
Education was super huge for both of my parents, and
Yeah.
I dropped out of college,
Yeah.
and our relationship was really, 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 really difficult during that time because, well, they basically thought, well, I'd be homeless soon, and
Right.
well, but to me, I valued creativity and I valued freedom and I valued consistency. So I thought, okay, I can make up for education if I can do these other things. But my dad went to college, and that's how he kind of got out of. He was in a pretty bad situation, and so he thought that's the only way that I'm going to do it too. And so instead of kind of following my parents' route and getting a formal education, I said, well, I'm going to just try to start a business. I'm going to try to do something, and I ended up messing up and failing quite a few times, but eventually I gained the experience to actually do the thing. And so now I can kind of loop back and get some opportunities that I could have got if I went to school, but just chose to go a different way and following my own values.
I mean, that takes a lot of courage. You were like, my parents don't think this is right for me. I should have stayed in school. I keep failing at what I'm doing. So what kept you going? What value or what motivation kept you going?
Well, I kind of cornered myself. Well, I dropped out of school, and by the time I realized I wasn't just going to be a millionaire in 6 months, it was like, well, I can't go back to school, but I'm not going to. It's just it just doesn't feel right, and so let me see if I can stick it out another month. Let me see if I can stick it out another month, and then when I got married and then had kids, I was still failing quite a bit, and it was almost like I kept cornering myself or adding responsibility, and I just maybe that's another value. I just wouldn't give in. Like I just wouldn't do it.
Persistence. Yeah.
It's like I almost made promises to people. I made promises to my parents that I would. Oh, I made a promise to myself, but I made a promise to them that like, hey, like I'm not going to go the way that you want, but I still love you guys. I still want to be a part of the family. I still want to be successful. And so every time that I fail, it almost doesn't matter because I have promises to keep. And I have people patient enough with me to see me or to wait on those promises to be fulfilled.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, that's well, I think that just shows how important other people can be in your, kind of confidence journey, that it is harder when you don't have support, when you have people against you, actively working against you or just not supporting you at all. And that's where you have to develop a value that says I can, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to do it until I can't do it anymore, So, okay. So you have at the base your value that gets you the courage to try things that are really difficult to do, which gets you to the next step, which is confidence is built by doing things over and over again. And you can develop confidence by physically doing the thing, like public speaking. You just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, despite the fear. But I'm going to give you some tools, or people some tools that they can use, that I use, that's really helpful in public speaking, particularly, or anything that you have to do that makes you afraid. So then you do and do and do. And then, one of the people that I think of who has like this very grounded sense of confidence is like Michelle Obama. Like, she's a really great public speaker, very, very good public speaker. And she has a sense of herself. And I think it's because she's done it over and over and over and over again. She's really learned, and she seems very grounded in what it is that she wants to say, what she wants to say, and what she stands for. So that's, I think, a good example of confidence. And then there's overconfidence, which gets you to kind of to the frosting on the cake, kind of the sweet, sugary stuff. And that's, I think of people like, remember Elizabeth Holmes? You remember her? She was a Silicon Valley like darling a few years ago. And she said that she had developed this, you know who I'm talking about? Yeah, she
remember,
developed this like box where you could put your arm in it or something, and it would take your blood and it would measure all these things. It could tell if you had cancer and all of that. And she had this whole persona, she wore like the black turtleneck, like she was Steve Jobs, and she made her voice very deep. And so everybody would think that she was, super whatever. And she totally faked it, and people bought it. And she just lied her way into making a ton of money. And I don't know, I'll have to look it up. But the last I heard, she was, she got caught, because eventually the confidence can't substitute for the reality of what you can and can't do. Okay, so what do you do when your body doesn't feel confident? Like, can you describe what it feels like when you got to do something and you're being courageous and you're going to do it, but your body is like going haywire?
I try to remember, or I try to think of the moment when it will be over. And I know this sounds really silly, but I tell myself, like, I'll time travel to the moment where I'm not nervous about this anymore. And it doesn't completely get rid of all the nervousness. Like, I had a call the other week, and I was super nervous. It was this this job for like marketing for like not national parks, but like preserves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like I love the outdoors, and so I read it through, and not everything was a fit, but I thought maybe I can come in here and like negotiate. They wanted a certain thing, and I kind of wanted a certain thing, and so I was so nervous because I thought it was so cool, but like I knew it just wasn't like the perfect match, and so I really had to like work for it. And I was so nervous. I ran like a 400-meter dash on the treadmill. I looked at my watch, and it was my heart rate was like 130, and like I was sitting, like I wasn't doing anything. And so I thought, okay, like let me go like run. And I was like, okay, well the call was only going to be like 30 minutes, and so just think of like minute 31, and it doesn't reduce the nervousness in total, but it almost like splits the energy. So now your mind is like in the moment thinking about how nervous you'll be in 10 minutes, but also your mind is thinking about how calm and settled you'll be on the 31st minute.
It's great.
But it's something that I do pretty for big and small things. I just try to remember, like it'll be over. It'll be over, and I won't feel this.
You did a smart thing, which was you move your body. I mean, people forget, or they don't know that when you get nervous, you have triggered your fear center. If you're afraid to do something, you're literally afraid to do it. And so your body is naturally going to want to go into fight or flight, or freeze, or fawn, or faint, or any of the different nervous system reactions. Because it's afraid, because it's there to try to, keep you alive and make sure like, oh, you don't die. And so there's a reason why, there's this great reason why we're so afraid. Like, the number one fear is public speaking, or doing something in front of everybody, right? Why? Because the number one fear that we have, as besides, actually dying, is to be ostracized from the group. Because way back when we were developing out of, I always go back to caveman times. We were afraid that you couldn't survive on your own, so you needed the group, you needed others to help you survive. You mentally, you needed other people to survive too. So anyway, we have our nervous system goes into all kinds of stuff. So by doing something physical, that's actually helpful because you have all this energy surging through you that wants to run away from the problem or fight it off, or you just want to pass out and not have to deal with it, or all the nervous system responses. So that was really smart. And then the second thing is that you're using your brain to help you to calm down and prepare by thinking of what would it look like on minute 31, and also thinking like, okay, and you prepared, right? So you prepared yourself for the different scenarios. So preparation is always helpful. I don't consciously use, but I think I subconsciously have used it before, and it's been really helpful, is to just imagine what I call the charismatic pause, which is that you take a beat, you take a moment to stop and allow yourself to just be calm and not do anything. So the image that I always share with people is like, think of superhero movies where the superhero is like, okay, the building is falling and all the people that I love are falling out of it. And then the bad guy is going to attack the next thing. And you'll always see like they will survey what's going on, and then the camera will zoom in and they will stop for a second before they go into action. So the charismatic pause is something to do when you're really nervous about doing something. Your confidence, you decided to do it, your values support it, you're courageous enough to do it, but now you're standing there doing it or expected to do it, and you are like, okay, now what? I'm going to freeze up. I mean, that's the big thing, is that like a lot of times we freeze up. And it's allowing yourself to stop and pause and breathe and then speak to yourself, like have an internal dialogue. So do you have like a internal dialogue that you say to yourself when you're doing something that you're not sure if you can do it?
If I'm by myself, then I'll try to take as much time as I can get to pause and think. But if I'm in a moment where like I'm on a call with somebody or I'm in front of people, then I'll think out loud. I'll just tell someone like, hey, I'm nervous. I'm really nervous, and I'll just kind of babble a little bit and or say something that's just actually on my mind, or just like almost like cutting the fluff. Like, okay, like I'm trying to say something, I'm trying to like perform here, I'm trying to cater to what I think you might need, or like make this situation go well, and I'll just like crumple that all up, throw it in the trash, and just say what I think. And just be like, I cannot get caught up in that tangle of mess of whatever I'm trying to do. And then I'll just be honest with the person about whatever that is. Because I think a lot of people are like tense too. And so if you take a moment to kind of get in touch with yourself and just let somebody know where you are and what you actually think, it creates trust.
Yes.
And it allows an opportunity for the other person to kind of meet you there in that space as well.
Yeah.
But if you kind of stay in your little shelter, or you're freezing, or you don't know what to say, and like you keep trying to like force it, I've never found that works. And I think that's really when you get embarrassed. Yeah. But I think even if you say the wrong thing, but you're being honest and you're being genuine after the situation, you can't blame yourself, because you're like, oh, well, I said what I thought. I was being honest. I was being genuine. Maybe this works. Maybe it doesn't. It's like you're constantly trying to gauge what the external perception of you is, while you're spending almost just as much energy trying to like live up to it.
Yeah, same. I think I keep this mantra that it's dumb because it's from a commercial uses it. I think it's like a burger commercial, but it's like, don't bother me, I'm doing something here. Like I don't care right now how you're seeing me, because I'm working on something right now. It's like somebody judging a half-done painting. It's like, I don't care about your opinion about my half-done painting, or my, halfway ability to ride a bike, or my halfway ability to do a podcast, or my halfway ability to do whatever it is, or, be a lawyer or whatever, because I'm working on something here. And you don't understand it because you are not on the journey that I'm on. Such an important thing to build a shield around yourself while you're building up the skills that take you from courageous to authentically confident. And that takes a while. And other people's opinions and negative comments can really send you off in a different direction.
I think we're getting to maybe the most, well, for me at least, the scariest part of public speaking or doing anything really is conflict. But that call the other week, I think literally the first thing I said, other than like a greeting, like I practiced what I would say. The first thing I would say, I said hello, and then I said the person's name because it was a phone call. But the next thing I said is like, I got to be completely honest with you, I'm just nervous about this. Mm-hmm. And then she said, well, you know what? I've been super nervous about it too. But
yeah.
And I think
built a true bridge of communication and rapport, and trust.
And, comedians are really great at it because they'll have the whole crowd kind of hanging on their seat about what they're saying. They'll be telling a story until the punchline comes. And most of the time the punchline it's not the punchline that's hilarious. It's the tension that's being released.
Yeah.
And so you have that emotional, not outburst, but you have an emotional release. And I find in conversations, you might not be telling a joke, but it could be a joke. It could just be honesty. It could be authenticity. It could be something creative that you say. It could be anything that just gives yourself that emotional release and the other person.
Yeah.
And then everything's kind of de-escalated.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I think there's always times to do that. And so many movies, for example, the thing that really is the catalyst for the big change is somebody realizing who they really are and expressing the real self, and almost every time the love relationship actually worked was when one person broke down and was completely honest about how they felt about the other person, even though it was really difficult. They had to be really brave. They didn't know how the other person was going to react. They anticipated they're probably going to react negatively. They wouldn't be accepted. And then, that's the magic of movies is that, by being honest, it was the thing. And now all of a sudden they're in love, but which is not real life always. Sometimes people tell you what their real feelings are and you're like, I don't feel the same way, but that's the part of the bravery. That's the reality of life. And then I think the thing about building confidence is that you go through those really scary times. They don't always work out, but you find some strength in you that says, okay, that one didn't work out. I'm going to try something else. And you were saying that you look for a signal. You don't just randomly go up to people that you find attractive and say, I find you attractive. We should, go do whatever. And a lot of people think that's like all those, I don't know what you call them. Those, you know what I'm talking about? There's all those shows where it's build confidence, go up and get any woman. And it's
I think you definitely can, because you can spark something up with somebody that you just see and then kind of gauge in a split second whether there's interest, and then okay, if there is, you kind of keep going. If there's not, but most people that is such a huge skill that it's not realistic to tell people that you can just pick that up.
Well, that's the confident versus overconfidence. There's somebody who may be confident about their ability to be able to go up to a person that they're attracted to and get that person to at least be open to maybe you're somebody I'd be interested in, versus overconfidence, which is totally fine with going to, any number of people and, offering themselves to them or saying you should really be with me because I'm so great. Some people can do that and it's just a numbers game for them, but it comes across as fake and overconfidence. You're going to ask enough people and they're going to think that you're confident, but is it real? Is it real confidence?
When you're a little bit in it and you get to that point where you start to freeze up and you don't know what to do, I think that's the point where you've used up your capacity to prepare and strategize and plan, and you are in real time getting to a place where you actually don't exactly know what to do, or you don't have the bandwidth or the present bandwidth to process the next immediate action. And I think that's where you just kind of let it go. You let it go, and that's where you have to be emotional. You have to be human. You have to bring in some spirituality, or you have to bring in some humor. You have to bring in something human, because your pre-scripted template has run out. and now it's time for you to actually be who you are.
What is that actually? What are you actually describing is personal growth? I mean, you grow when you've reached the end of the line. You don't know what to do next. You've never done this before, but you're there and you have to go forward. That's what makes you grow. That's what makes you mature and become a deeper person, understand yourself more. And that really is what gains your confidence. Like, I got sent out into space and I didn't know what to do with myself because, I was standing in front of the crowd and I suddenly forgot everything. And then, poof, I'm floating out there. And then I remember one line and I said that line and everybody laughed. And then I was back on track, or whatever it was. And now you've got this foundation you've built yourself up on. And the next time you're going to be like, I can do it.
So what would you tell someone who is just they don't know what to do? No matter what they have going on, they're scared to kind of take that. They're at that point where the next step isn't going to be able to be projected or planned or strategized, and it's time for them to kind of take that step into just seeing who they are and building that growth. Is there any sort of comfort? Is there a framework? Is there anything that you could tell them during that moment to kind of make that process easier?
I tell them that, this is what works for me, is that always before you get into situations and do this every day, because you're going to get into situations every day where you don't know what to do and you don't really have the confidence for it. And that is spend some quiet time with yourself. Because what happens is when you have quiet time with yourself, you start to recognize that there's a lot in you that is not on the conscious surface. Because that's what meditation and mindfulness time and all that is. It's just allowing stuff that's in your subconscious to kind of bubble up and be in your face. And that's where it's kind of like dreaming, where you realize, oh my God, there's all this stuff going on in my mind that I'm not conscious of. And that will give you a lot of confidence because you'll realize that there's like support behind you. It's not all happening in like, I got to figure everything out from A, B, C, D, E, and like have all the plans laid out and follow the path. That there's a part of you and me and everybody that is there and supportive and wants to help. Even that nervous system response is really a way of helping you, of making sure that you're ready in case you go up on that stage and everybody laughs at you. You are going to be okay because your body is there protecting you. It's getting ready to run away off the stage if you need to. It's getting ready to, fight anybody off who says, F you, you're terrible or whatever. You are going to have you're going to have a lot of tools there. And by being quiet with yourself, you're going to be able to see that there's more there in your subconscious.
I don't know what I was going to say before I asked the question, or like what my answer would be, but to hear your answer, it makes a lot of sense that, well, if you're going to be yourself, give yourself, like before you're in the game, give yourself some practice being yourself. Give yourself that space before you're put on the spot.
Right.
And, we're kind of talking about, movies and stuff and the superheroes. And there's always, in every superhero movie, there's a scene where he goes to battle the villain, or like he has something going on and he gets beat and he has to scramble, or she has to scramble. He doesn't know what to do. And he has to kind of like, just crawl his way back to his lair or to his base or to his home or, his girlfriend. And then he has the space to be like, oh, like, to reflect and to kind of tap back in with himself and why he lost and why he went into it in the first place and why he's even fighting in the first place.
Right. What's it all for? What does it mean? Who am I? I think of that. There's that during the Avengers series there's one of them where Thor like ends up at some village where all he does is drink. And he's like all slovenly and fat and everything. And we have to go. I like that because it just says that there's moments when we got to figure out who we are again. Thanks for being here. Follow us by subscribing and let us know what coaching you might need. You can DM us via links in the description. If you like your topic on the show, send us your story. Let us know if you'd like us to talk about it anonymously, or if you want to be on the show with us and join us for a tape recording. You have to be 18 years or older. Join us next week for your free online coach.